tuned for today's episode of Breaking the Biz, an informative podcast where we dive into the world of entertainment by interviewing seasoned professionals who have made their mark in the industry. Gain invaluable insights as they share their personal journeys, offering advice on navigating the dynamic landscape of the entertainment industry. Whether you're an aspiring actor, musician, filmmaker, author, animator, or any creative soul, tune in for expert career guidance, insider tips, and first-hand accounts on breaking into the entertainment industry. Get ready to unlock the secrets behind successful careers and fuel your own passion for the limelight. Please remember to like this video and to subscribe to our channels for more great conversations.
Greetings from Breaking the Biz, brought to you by Yes I Can Unity Through Music and Education. I'm William Felber, your navigator through the intriguing universe of the entertainment industry, as revealed by the visionaries and creators who bring it to life. Stay tuned as we delve into diverse insights from the forefront of entertainment, hearing from pioneers, creators, and agents of change. Prepare for a journey filled with tales of innovation, resilience, and the undying quest for artistic brilliance.
Welcome to Breaking the Biz podcast with the Yes I Can crew. We have got a great guest with us tonight. We have Patrick Voetberg, who is an editor at Netflix Animation Studio. He moved to Los Angeles in 1989 after graduating from the University of Michigan with the goal of becoming a feature film editor. After learning the ropes in live-action editorial on several films, including Doc Hollywood and Undercover Blues, his focus turned to feature animations. Some of his credits include The Emperor's New Groove, Open Season 1 and 2, Planes, Despicable Me, Home, and Leo. Those are some real good ones. My little one is always a Despicable Me. I see that we have a new one coming out as well, so I know everyone is going to be excited. So Patrick, thank you for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. Can everyone hear me all right? I accidentally clicked the wrong button.
You're golden. You're golden. You're golden. So let's talk about it. I want to know, when did you know that, when did you fall in love with movies and, that idea of being a feature film editor, all of that?
So I've prepared a little sort of bio, if that's okay. I can
you got it.
Pretty quickly and talk about my roots and what happened to bring me here. So I grew up in suburban Detroit in Michigan, and my parents were humble, from humble beginnings. My father grew up on a dairy farm. My mother was the daughter of a man who worked on an assembly line making refrigerators. So they fell in love, got married at 19, had kids, 3 boys by the time they were 25. And I was born in 66. And they were, they worked really, really hard, and that's what they instilled in me. They saved money for a long time to get out of you may have heard of 8 Mile in Detroit. We were near there. Eventually, they saved enough money to move us out to 17 Mile, which was suburban and very nice. So they didn't spend a lot of money on taking us to the movies. I didn't grow up watching movies. I liked Three Stooges and TV, and cartoons, but I didn't really. I wasn't from a movie household, so there wasn't that. When I was a kid, I dreamed of being in the movies and stuff like that. It just wasn't like that. That came much later for me. But because of the weather in Michigan, one of the things that I ended up doing was doing a lot of puzzles and games during the winters, and coding and stuff like that. Coding is as far as word searches and solving codes, puzzles and stuff like that. What I realize now is that's basically what I do now is solve puzzles, put pieces of the puzzle together. In high school, one of the big influences on me was that my older brother, got into theater, but more on the acting and performing side. And I followed his footsteps and got into the technical side of theater. I liked the sound and the lights, and then ended up getting into stage management and really enjoyed it. And then my brother ended up going off to a private arts high school in northern Michigan called Interlochen, which is all dedicated to, it's like FAME or, these high school, North Carolina Performing Arts High School. And so I was shocked by that and realized, like, wow, that's a choice that somebody can make to follow that dream, because I always thought I'd just sort of like be a businessman or something like that. But as I kept learning and learning in the theater, by the end of high school, I realized that I did not want to move to New York City. I did not want to be a stage manager because I would have to start work every day at 3 or 4 p.m. and work until midnight. I would have no life. I'd work every weekend. It wasn't really for me. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I enrolled in the University of Michigan in 1984. To just explore. Got my Bachelor of Arts in Communications. But while I was there, I still kept doing theater, but ended up thinking, I'll go into marketing or advertising. That's what everybody did, and kind of moved to Chicago and work in the advertising field so I could still be creative, and like throw ideas. And still, it's kind of almost theater and television or whatever. During my time there, I ended up taking, and this was the big pivotal moment, was that I took a film history class and didn't realize that hadn't realized before that cinema was really an art form. I'd seen some cool artsy movies and loved it, but didn't know, how it was done or anything about it. But this film history class was fascinating to me, and I befriended the professor, talked to him after class all the time. And he really encouraged me to pursue my goals. Like, he said, look, if you want, long story short was, that he would take me under his wing, get me into graduate level courses as an undergrad so I could actually be making films. Michigan's not a school where the undergraduate part is mostly theory and movements in history, and the graduate level stuff is making your own films. So he got me into graduate level courses as an undergrad, which was great, because I quickly learned that making the actual process of making a film was what I wanted to do. And when I finally got to make my own, the pivotal day was when I spent about 16 hours in the editing room trying to make my film make sense out of all these stringy little pieces of 16 millimeter film, and the way that you could rearrange shots to tell a completely different story. And that fascinated me. I lost 16 hours. I had no idea what time it was when I came out of there, and that I hadn't eaten for 10 hours or something. It was ridiculous. So I was like, that's it. This is my passion, right? This is what I love doing. So I saved up money after graduating in '88, saved up money and moved to LA with sight unseen. I'd never been to LA, but I moved here with $1,200 and a Mazda GLC, Mazda 3 basically, loaded to the gills, basically January 1st of 1989. Had some friends out here from Michigan that I crashed on their couch for a few weeks and found an apartment that I couldn't really afford. So got a job as a waiter to make ends meet, which I did all through college. And just started, knocking on doors of studios and getting nowhere really quickly. When I had left the University of Michigan, this professor, Frank Beaver, gave me a list of Michigan alumni that lived in Los Angeles and worked in the industry. Among them, Larry Kasdan and Robert Altman, but they didn't take my calls. Their assistants did. And there were dozens of other people on the list. And finally, I got a call back from one of them. She was the script supervisor on an old show called All in the Family. And she said, hey, I'm a Michigan alum. I got your name through these people. And I know another Michigan alum who's looking for an apprentice editor to work for free. And I'm like, yes, absolutely yes, right? So they allowed me to work during the day on the film and learn the editing room and how the procedures of a feature film versus a student film. It's very different. And they would allow me to leave at 3 p.m. so I could go wait tables at night, and I would wait tables on the weekends to make a living. So after this film, I felt pretty confident, and that same editor hired me to be the next level up as an assistant editor on his next project. And I learned even more. And this was all, making very little money, working really long hours and non-union work. Worked on some Roger Corman projects, actually, down in Venice. And he's a schlock B filmmaker, if you don't know. But I learned a lot. And through him, and it was all just contacts, meeting people. I still am friends with several people that I met down there. But that led to my first union job. That editor got a call from a friend who was looking for an apprentice editor on a union show at Disney Studios. It was a project that I took, and it was for theme park productions. And I helped make a film that was Jim Henson's last project. It was called Kermit the Frog Presents Muppet Vision 3D. And it played at Disneyland and Disney World for many years. More eyes have seen that film than any other film I've ever worked on. Because you figured 10,000 people a day at each of the Disney Worlds. That's a lot of people. Sorry, I'm fighting a cold here. So, let's see what I have more here on my list. I'm not a public speaker. I have to admit, I'm not a public speaker.
You're doing great. One of the things I just wanted to point out, I loved how you mentioned when you started and you said, solving puzzles, so to speak. And it's always phenomenal when you can look at editing and how it can change the story just based on how you move the pieces around.
Right.
And, when you said solving problems and solving the puzzle, I get that. I can visualize that. And I've seen it to where, even sound, like you see when they change even just sound around and you have Darth Vader walking out and it's like party music, how it just changes the entire picture.
Sure.
So I loved how early on you were able to find, this is exactly what I want to do. And I think it's very telling to, do 10, 16 hours and realize that you've lost track of time. You haven't worried about eating and you're so engulfed and focused in on what you're creating. I think that is very telling to say you found exactly what it is that you're passionate about when you lose track of time and you're just so dialed in.
Yeah, I realize there's a lot of power in that, and creative power in just being the person who's in control of how long a shot is on, how long you stay on a character, or whether you are on them for their line or for their reaction to the line that's that's off screen. And there's a lot of creative zhuzh, as they in that I really enjoy. That sort of like goes back to stage management and being behind the scenes and lighting and sound. It's like, you don't see me, and that's good. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be famous in that way. I just want to make it work. I want to be the guy who puts it together. So one of the things that I really liked also about the choice of being in the editing room is it was, when I started out, it was still on film. It was 16, 35 millimeter, large format, even 70 millimeter stuff. It was very tactile, and I really liked creating and doing things with my hands. We actually would physically tape the film together and stuff like that. But after my stint on Kermit the Frog, that was a year to make a 15-minute film, if you can imagine, because it was all visual effects. And then, unfortunately, Jim Henson died while we were finishing up the movie, and his family decided they wanted to reshoot the ending. So Frank Oz came in and directed a new ending for it. There was a bigger extravaganza. But after that, I went on to hook up with an editor named Priscilla Ned, who was great for my career. Not an easy person to work with, but she got big movies. She had cut Pretty Woman before I met her. So I went on to do Clean Slate, Undercover Blues, and Doc Hollywood with her. And it really helped me elevate my career and my income. But then in 95, I got a job offer from Disney to come do a marketing job in the animation department. And I wasn't working, so I thought, I'll try that. I'll learn about animation. And I worked in marketing for a while, but then ended up being the first assistant editor on The Emperor's New Groove. And I really learned the process at that point. I learned how animation works, from the very beginning stages to the end stages, and didn't realize that it took 3-4 years to make an animated feature film before that, and was amazed by the process, and realized that that's another whole hour-long discussion. But the creativity in animation really is available to an editor. An editor has a lot more creative power in an animated film than they do in a live action film. And the reason is that as a live action film editor, they go out and they have a script and they shoot the movie and they say, okay, here's all the pieces, put it together per the script, make it make sense, cut it down, but you can't add. Adding is not an option, not really. Whereas in animation, think of it like a puzzle. Again, in live action, you're given the puzzle pieces and they all have picture and sound on them, right? But in animation, I can decide how big I want the piece to be, what shape it is, what's in the piece, because there's nothing on it. I can have an artist draw me another character in the shot, or I need a different background, or change the angle of the shot, or put the camera up in the sky. I can request all that and they'll do it, which is just a wonderful tool for the editor, because that way you can help keep the film and the story moving along in an entertaining way. I can even suggest new lines in animation, because in live action, it's all recorded on set and you're done. In animation, you have several instances where the actors come back and record more lines. So you can always add another joke or add another line to make the story make sense, or to make it funnier or more entertaining. And I love that about animation. So after Emperor's New Groove, I did Sinbad and Mulan 2, and then I was invited to come over to Sony to work on Open Season. And this was where I sort of reached a career sort of choice. Because when you spend so long in animation, the live action world doesn't want you back anymore. And it's harder to get back into it if you're away for a long time. You sort of fall out of everyone's sort of out of sight, out of mind, right? So it was a great job. And at the time I had just gotten married, and we had our first child. And two of the best things about animation is, in a feature world, the jobs can last anywhere from 1.5 years to 4 years, 5 years. So that's nice security. The pay is generally lower than in live action, but if you have work for 3 years, that's pretty great. And the other factor was that the hours on an animated feature, generally when times are slow, you're generally working 8:30 to 6:30 or 7. In the live action world, that's almost unheard of. In live action, generally 12-hour day is the minimum. 12-hour day is the minimum, and usually 15 to 18, 6 days a week. And I just didn't want to do that. I was just married. I had a new family, and that was just too much. Plus, add in an hour commute from either Torrance or Santa Clarita, where I am. It's brutal. So I decided to pursue animation as a career choice and stick with it. So Open Season happened. I was the associate editor on that. So I bumped up a level, got more money, and was actually finally, instead of being an assistant editor where it's more librarian type work, I actually got to be a creative force on the film for the first time, and it was fantastic. And I had a wonderful editor mentor who allowed me to, rather than just work on sound effects and music, she let me cut the whole scene. She gave me the picture, the sound, gave me guidance, told me what they were looking for from the scene, and just let me have it for the entire run of the movie. Several editors I know won't let their associates do that. They just say, "Okay, I cut the scene. You do sound effects and music," and that's not as fulfilling. So she was wonderful in that way. And then I worked directly with the directors and the producers on my scenes, and then she had her scenes. She did about 2/3 of the movie. I did about 1/3 of the movie. So I learned a ton that way, and I'm forever grateful to her. She's recently retired, but she was the editor on Despicable Me as well, and I worked with her on that as one of her associates. So let's see what else do I have here. That's kind of almost all of it. I got through the puzzle pieces thing, and then so basically one of the main things I do as far as editing goes, just like a book editor or a newspaper editor might do, my job is timing. And in animation, we do sound first, right? So we have a bunch of still images that are drawn by the artists, and we build that with the sound. And the sound comes first. You cannot animate a scene until you have the final audio, because that's how you get lip sync, right? So the final audio has to be transcribed to the animators so they can actually move the mouth at the right time to match. So that's one of the sort of things that's backwards about animation compared to live action as well. So my job is to really time out the audio and the picture, the still images, to make it succinct, sorry, Presley, I know I'm boring. Make it
Presley's
succinct.
not bored. Presley loves this. Keep going.
Make it entertaining. Keep it moving. And I do that better on film than I do in my speaking, obviously. But to, suggest things, but only when it's finally, the scene is really, really tight and all the directors approve it and the producers approve it, that we have the final dialogue, then we finally put it into production in animation, right? And then it's sort of like a pipeline where we send 2 sequences or 2 scenes in a week, and then a week later we send one more, and then we send one more. And they go through an assembly line process of storyboard, it was the first one, but layout, which is camera, then animation, then lighting, and that takes years. It takes about 6 months to 8 months, 9 months for a scene to go through that whole process and approvals. And then there's a daisy chain of those, just one after the other going through the pipeline. So you don't just send the whole movie at once and then it gets laid out and then it gets animated and then it gets lit. It's one sequence at a time on a schedule, because they can't handle doing that all at once.
Sure. Talk me through how collaborative the process is, because you mentioned sound comes first. You have lighting, which is one component. I imagine a team. You have the layout and camera shots. Then you come in and piece everything together. And you mentioned, a project, a scene could take a few months. how many years goes into, let's talk with like Despicable Me. How long did it take the entire process to put that together?
That was 4 years. So the luxury and the curse of animation is that if it's not right in the storyboard phase, in the early phases, it's still very inexpensive for studios to change it, right? So if a story's not working, if they're not finding the heart of the movie or the comedy, you can throw stuff out, throw away Act 3, rewrite. So famously, while I was at Sony on open season, they were trying to make Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. It started a year before I got there as a pet project of one of the heads of the studio. It's a children's book and it's a picture book. There's no words. It's just a picture book about food raining down, right? So they had to make up characters and make up a storyline. And is it a love story? Is it a comedy? Is it serious? So that movie took 8 years to make. Wow. And they went through two sets of directors before getting a new director. And they hired a French director who finally came in and said, you know what it is? You're taking it way too seriously. This movie's got to be silly, stupid, fun. And so they redid it that way, and it finally worked, And it's a great movie. It's really entertaining and silly. I love it. And that's another thing about why I do animation is because you can create worlds like in the Spider-Verse. You can't do that movie in live action. There's just no way. It's all visual effects. So it's easier to just do it as animation rather than visual effects. But one of the other things I wanted to sort of impress on you is that in live action, like I said, all these puzzle pieces come to the editing room at the end, and it's like, okay, make it work. We're all done. See you later. Production's over. Now it's post. In animation, sort of answers your question a little bit about the process and collaboration. We work with all departments. Editorial is the hub of the entire film, right? So we work hand in hand with directors the whole time, but the storyboard artists give all their drawings to us. The sound team, we go and we record the dialogue with the directors. We go to the sound stages and record the talent, and we ask for what we need. So we get those pieces and we put them together. Then we add the sound effects and music as well. We time it out. And like I said, once we have all these storyboards really, really tight and working with the right dialogue, then editorial ships that to the next department, which is layout, camera, right? So they make it go from drawings into a computer world. So they get on Maya and they do rough blocking. There's no lip sync, but they move the characters through the frame to sort of match the storyboards. And every department, every department along the way improves it, or they'll want to make changes to lengthen shots or shorten shots or move the camera to make more sense and fix things. And then when layout has their pass, they send it to editorial. Editorial puts it in the movie, and then with the sound, and we recut and we lengthen and we shorten and we put effects and we fix mistakes in that. And then finally, back and forth between layout. And every step is, back and forth, back and forth. So then when layout is all perfect and everybody loves it, then we send that version, and we've got all the final dialogue. We send that to animation, and then animation does the same thing. They send us one shot at a time back to editorial. So we piece it together, right? And then we'll make suggestions or throw out ideas or show it to directors and fix things, or there may be continuity mistakes where a person is in one shot, but then they're not in the next shot where they should be and stuff like that. So we're always calling those things out. So then again, once animation is finished and everybody loves it, we send it to lighting, and they do all of the final source lighting, shadows, and then it goes to effects, surfacing, stuff like that. So we are in the process for the whole time. Other departments come and go, and so that's really fascinating because you'll be doing storyboards on one scene and cutting dialogue on it, and then in another scene you're cutting in animation or sending it to lighting. So it's just all depends on what's ready to go.
And I wanted to ask you, one of the things that I find totally fascinating is that in the beginning, the storyboards, then it comes kind of almost full circle where you are trying to edit almost pretty much to what those storyboards looked like, even though you're involved in all aspects of the production.
Yeah, so generally what happens is I'll get, for a dialogue scene that's a few minutes long, I'll maybe get 200 drawings, maybe 300. For a big action scene, I'll get over 1,000 drawings. And I will usually follow the script because the directors are involved with the storyboard artists. They tell them what they want. So they do usually want to see what they've drawn. So I am reluctant to cut stuff out of the first pass. So I'll assemble it pretty much, and it actually comes to me, the drawings come in order, but there's no timing on them. So I'll time them out best I can with the dialogue or sound effects and whatnot. And then the directors, I'll play it for the directors. But oftentimes, if I have time, what I'll do is I'll say, okay, here's the way it was storyboarded, the long way, and now here's my cut. And I'll cut stuff out that I don't think we need or isn't funny or entertaining or doesn't move the story forward. It's just like an artist going off on a tangent or whatever. And sometimes they'll say, oh, yeah, that's much better. We don't need that. Or they'll say, no, I wanted that. We asked for that. Let's keep it. No big deal. Got to let it go. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, you've also had the pleasure of working at Disney, and we talk in this program that when you have a skill set similar to what you have, you almost are a freelance worker. The days of being involved in working at Disney for 30, 40 years, that doesn't really happen in today's job market. You mentioned Disney, you've mentioned
it can.
Okay.
Very rarely. I do know some people who have been there for 35 years, 40 years. Not many, and I don't recommend it. In fact, generally for me, what's benefited me is leaving studios because by going somewhere else, you get to move up and reinvent yourself and ask for more money.
Okay.
Disney in general is a great place to start. And they take a chance on a lot of people from Cal Arts up here, and they farm out of the school system. And in some ways, they take advantage of that a little bit. But the people I know who have left have met. First of all, you meet more people. So if you end up needing work, you've worked at 2 or 3 other studios, and now you know 2 or 3 times many more people. So that's really benefited me. And not to call them out, but Disney tends to pay lower than anybody else in town.
Okay. Talk me through how important networking has been, because I mean, your examples of working with individuals and then getting that opportunity, and then eventually now ending up with Netflix animation.
Right. So that's they always say, and the axiom is true, that it isn't what you know, it's who you know. I think that's right. And that's sort of true, but you make your own luck in a way too, because what I would say is for networking, when you are in your first or second job, when you're making this career choice, you want to do this thing, it's so important to be positive, get to know everybody, say yes to everything, be nice. Never say bad things about people, especially behind their back. The animation community is very small. And word gets around very quickly if someone's bad mouthing someone else. So even if you think something or you don't care for somebody, keep it to yourself. Okay. Or tell somebody at home who's not going to repeat it in front of your coworkers, because those connections you make, if you work hard and really are enthusiastic about it, that's the best reference that you can have, right? So people will go, oh yeah, he's a really hard worker. He's really nice. He's fun. And he gets down to work. He doesn't goof around too much, but he's still fun and nice. That's the kind of person. I once didn't get a job because on Rocketeer, in fact, with Walter Murch, one of the top editors in the game, because they thought I was too serious, if you can believe that. Because I came in and I was all nervous and scared, and like this always the big time cutting room, and didn't get the job because they thought I was too uptight and I need to be more relaxed. They just wanted a friendly, nice person that they could teach and groom. And
that's a very good. It's a very good point, right? We've had many people come on and speak about the fact of they don't always want the hot shot with all of this and that. They want someone that is fun to be around, someone that can be coached, someone that is fun to work with. So I think that's important. The other thing I wanted to point out is, when you moved, first of all, I want to give you just kudos to the fact of just moving to LA and pursuing a dream. That to me is just absolutely scary, not having a job, just moving. And I love the fact of being able to network off of, where you graduate from. But when indeed someone said, hey, here's an opportunity, but you have to work for free. When you are paying your dues or you're trying to learn and find exactly what it is you want to do, I think it's important to highlight you do say yes to opportunities, because you never know when those opportunities are going to turn into more opportunities, And in this situation, you found exactly where your skill set really was best.
Yep. Every single job I've ever gotten was because of either the previous job or the job before that. And somebody who knew somebody who needed somebody who needed somebody. It's all been a very clear chain, or working with the same people over and over, or having them recommend me to someone that they knew who needed somebody. So okay. Yeah, it does snowball like that. And moving here sight unseen, it is brave, I do say, but I had supportive parents. My parents, like, you got to follow your dream. That was always their thing, because they couldn't as much, And so they supported my brother after Interlochen became a professional dancer. So they helped him out in New York while he was actually a literally starving artist. And then he ended up finally hooking out with a dance company and becoming a professional dancer and touring the world. So that also sort of made me believe that I could do it too, and I never really starved as an artist. I had some tough times financially when I started, but eventually it really picked up.
I love it.
Yeah. So my parents were really, really helpful with that. And I always felt like, well, if I fail, I can go back home.
Right. I want to ask you, you mentioned, obviously having support from your parents, and you also talked about early on kind of having a little bit of mentorship. Talk me through some of the key mentors in your life and how important mentorships are.
Right. So obviously the first one is that, my parents in a way of support, but that a high school theater teacher who let the kids contribute, and they built a 1.5, which at the time $1.5 million theater onto our high school the year before I started there. So I actually got into the theater program and had this beautiful, Broadway quality theater, 850 seat theater. And I was a technician in that theater. I actually became an employee of the city because the city helped fund the building of the theater. And they would come use it for speaking engagements and slideshows and stuff like this. So I actually became an employee of the city as a techie, setting up microphones and lights for these events that weren't school related. So that theater teacher, who actually moved out to California later, and we're still in touch. Frank Beaver, the professor at the University of Michigan, who took me under his wing. And then once I got out here, it's really, 2 or 3 main editors who I worked with over and over, who helped, propel me on to better things than they could offer me. One was a guy named Adam Wolf, who was that first editor I really worked with, who taught me a ton, but got me that first union job. And then the next would be Pam Ziegenhagen, who cut Despicable Me, among others, and Open Season. And I worked with her on about 5 or 6 different films. And she took me from assistant to associate editor, and then also recommended me for cutting Leo to Netflix. She was working at Netflix, and they were looking for an editor, and she said, "Oh, go hire Patrick for Leo. He'd be great." And they did. So I'm forever grateful to her. She was the main one, and she taught me. She's the one who let me cut scenes on Open Season, and that led to me being the editor on Open Season 2 on my own, and then worked with her again later on Despicable Me, like I said, and again was cutting scenes. And she actually was in Paris. I had a really strange thing happen where she had to leave the show toward the end. She was having family stuff going on, and she had to come back from Paris. And they had about 6 months left to go. And I was here in LA. The animation was done in Paris. I was here in LA, and the producer and one of the directors wanted me to move to Paris to go finish the movie. And unfortunately, at the time, my wife's father was dying from ALS, and I knew that I just couldn't leave. I had to be here. And so, plus we have 2 kids at the time, but it would be just have been way too hard on my wife for me not to be here. So I turned that down. And the editor who did end up getting that job has been in Paris ever since, cutting movies for Illumination, and basically has bought a chateau in the French countryside. Yeah. Well, you pick your thing.
You win some and you lose some.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would have been amazing, but who knows how it would have turned out.
Yeah, but no, I'm with you. I think family comes first.
Right.
So you started with cutting literally, gluing the scenes together. You've seen the evolution of editing and software and technology. You started with a communication degree. If someone wanted to get into editing on this scale, what would you recommend the steps be for an individual to, education, software that they should learn, blueprint it?
Right. So, looking back, I didn't need college to do this. I learned what I wanted to do in college, but if this is what you want to do, it's not necessarily the right path for everyone. Film school is a different thing. If you are sure you want to be in the film industry, film school can be a great help as far as learning all the tools of the trade, software, and so on, and contacts. USC, there's basically a USC and an AFI mafia in town, and they all hire each other, right? It's not that you can't break in, it's just that they would prefer someone from who they know from school. Cal Arts is another one. These are great systems and great schools if you want to do them, especially if you want to specialize and you know what you want to specialize in. As far as when I came up, you couldn't learn what you needed to know in film school or school at all. It's all on the job training. That's changed a lot now that it's digital. And I do really miss the tactile physical aspect of editing, where I was winding film on a bench and taping things together and keeping the sound in sync. Sound is separate from picture at that stage. And I do miss that because now I'm just pushing buttons, right? And what's great about the digital world, of course, is you can try it really quickly. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, you just go back to what it was, right? And whereas something on film might take 2 or 3 days to really rework a scene, you can do in 2 or 3 hours on a computer. So my software of choice and the software of choice for professional editing in animation is Avid, as far as feature films goes. A lot of people use Adobe, and there used to be a decent Apple program, but they have since stopped supporting it. I don't know if they're back to supporting it or not, but those are better for television and advertising, short pieces. For feature filmmaking, Avid's the tool for editing for sure. It's the standard. And every once in a while, a producer comes along and tries to save money and reinvent the wheel. Oh, we can get this software for free or cheaper. It's open source. No, it doesn't work. No, you need frame accuracy. You need film frame accuracy and time code accuracy. And the only way you're going to get it really right is Avid. So that's for editing. Maya is the big program for animation itself and for layout. Maya is just a fascinating, amazingly deep program for animation. You build a world, and once your world is built in a computer, you build this world, and once it's built, you can put a camera anywhere you want and then run the scene looking through that camera. It's just, and you can set up 12 cameras and get all the footage back of the action. It's fascinating. And I've only scratched the surface of playing with it. For editing itself, the other programs I've found very helpful to learn are Photoshop, because oftentimes I will take a drawing out of the Avid and change it. I can erase things or draw things on it, add things to it, and then bring it back into the Avid to fix it. And then again, that's another program. Whereas if you know Photoshop is insanely complex. If you can learn even half of Photoshop, you'll work for the rest of your life. It is such an incredibly powerful program and so many levels. It just blows me away what can be done in Photoshop. The other one that's kind of used a little less lately, the effects that I can do in the Avid are pretty limited as far as fixing and moving drawings and changing drawings and so on. It's pretty crude. I can do dissolves and picture in picture and fixing little things, and paint. But After Effects is a program that lets you cut out a piece of a drawing and say, keep the same background, but then move that little piece of the drawing across the background, right? After Effects is wonderful if you really want to put motion into it's basically a crude animation program, right? Okay. Once you really master it.
I love it.
So those are the key ones.
That Photoshop.
More the future, of course, everybody's talking about AI and what is and isn't and should and shouldn't happen. And I do feel like Jeff Goldblum was saying, they were so busy trying to figure out if they could, they didn't stop to think about whether they should. And I think that's about where we are. I've seen some demos of AI programs that blew my mind away and made me realize that it's going to eliminate a lot of jobs. It's going to create some jobs in the AI world, but it's going to eliminate a lot of sort of the lower librarian type tasks that are involved in the editing room. I'll just give a real quick what it was like. Somebody took an actress performing a line. They decided they didn't like the performance, So they re-recorded the director saying the line that they wanted the performance to be sadder. So they said the word like no really sadly, and the AI was able to put it in had samples of the actress's voice. They put it in her voice and cut it in, and AI fixed the lip sync. She never said no. It animated made a visual effect of her face saying no the way the director wanted it. So then, for legal reasons, they had to send that clip to the actress on her phone. She watched herself performing a line that she never did, and she approved it to be in the film and got a paycheck for that.
It's incredible because I've seen it behind the scenes in music and how it can take. I've watched creating an entire song with orchestra, beats, a cadence, sounding like an artist, and in 30 seconds giving you two versions. And in music, same thing where it's talked about, should we, trying to get ahead of it because it's already getting ahead of everything. But in music, they feel like there's going to have to be someone like yourself who knows how to solve the problems and run the AI. And I still feel like someone like yourself who can move the pieces how it needs to be, the problem solver. But absolutely, some of those smaller scale editing jobs and session players as far as music can be replaced with AI. So it's fascinating.
That's going to be the job. An assistant editor is one of their tasks is going to be sending the revised pieces to the actor or actress to get their approval. Sending the file out. It's pretty terrifying. Although I'm sure producers and directors will love it because it's cheaper and faster and easier, right? So that's the scary part. It's definitely going to cost some jobs.
Okay. I want to ask one last question, and then I want to be respectful of your time and see if there's any questions out of the group here.
Oh, I'm happy to stay as long as you like, but I don't want to go over anyone's dinner time or anything like that. And I do have some clips that I'd love to.
We're going to go to your clips after this. I want to ask you, with all that you've experienced in your career, what would you tell to your younger self? If you could just one little nugget of information.
Well, I was a little slow on the uptake about technology when going from film to Avid, and I guess it's embraced technology because you can't fight it, right? I worked on several movies in Emperor's New Groove and Sinbad, where I was the film guy, and the movie was being cut on a computer, but we still at that time had to make the film match the computer cut for screenings and so on, right? The technology hadn't gotten far enough that we could really make an output that would, it was time consuming, and they wanted a film because they actually shot the animation on film negative. So I was the film guy for too long, and finally I had to break through and learn Avid and take the time to do that and have someone actually help me a lot in the cutting room. So embrace it and learn it as quickly as you can, because then you'll get the upper hand.
Love it. Do not rage against the machine. The machine wins.
Right.
I love it.
Be curious. Be curious. Always. In animation, they want to keep us in our little rooms and in our departments, and layouts on that floor and animations on that floor, and the editorials in the basement always. I don't know why they think we want a basement, because it's dark. We don't need dark anymore. We have computers. But go to parties, meet everybody you can, find out about, do an interview like this where you find out about their career path, take an interest in them, become friends with them, and then try to find out, hey, I'd really love to see exactly what you do and how you do it. And see if it's okay to come by for half an hour and just watch them work and have them point out how they either make that model or animate that face or whatever it is,
Absolutely.
Take classes in stuff you don't want to do. Like I've watched acting classes. I've learned about composition and cinematography so that I can communicate with the people I need to talk to about what they do on their level a little bit. I can say, hey, wouldn't it be better if instead of a single here, we had a 3-shot and we make a triangle with that person in the background listening in, right? Rather than cutting to them. Can't we just do it all in one shot? And they go, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. It's certainly okay to make mistakes, but learn from them if you do. And nobody's going to really, unless it's a huge mistake, like deleting a movie or something, nobody's going to fire you for it. Learn from it. And, that's okay to try stuff. And you can take classes on all these things, right? There's a film editing class at COC that's available. So if you find something that you really want to pursue, go after it. I found my passion, luckily, very young, and that's all I ever wanted to do was be an editor. I never wanted to direct. It seemed like too big of a headache and too difficult. I like to be able to sort of focus down on things. I'm a detail person, not a big picture person. Although I do have to keep big picture in mind when storytelling, but I like detail too.
I want to first of all thank you for your time tonight, Patrick.
Of course.
I love you're one of the first speakers who showed all the different levels, all the different departments, and I want you all to understand just what Patrick is saying. If you see a certain element that you're like, that's what I want to do, jump on it early. If there's one piece that I can hope that you get from Patrick is once you find exactly what it is you want to do, pursue it. And Patrick knew he could do it. His parents believed in him. We believe in you. Find out exactly what it is you want to do and pursue it. And lastly, say yes to opportunities, even in the beginning. If it's not going to pay you, you have heard it firsthand. I know I tell you all the time to say yes to opportunities and put yourself in positions. You heard it from Patrick. Go to the parties, meet people, reach out to people. You're hearing it firsthand from someone who is successful because he did all of those things. So with that, take that knowledge, take that advice, and put it into play. Patrick, you have been amazing. I wish you continued success. Just admire the fact of, putting family first. And I think it is very amazing to find what you want to do so early on and then just follow those points to success. Proof is in the pudding. Continue on. And, maybe the next one, there's no Spider-Verse at the same time.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I know. I'm very blessed.
So on that note, everyone, have a phenomenal rest of your evening. Thank you again, Patrick.
Thanks,
Adios,
everybody.
everyone. Have
Bye-bye.
a great evening.
Yeah.
Thank you again. Thank you, Carol, for connecting us. Bye-bye,
So,
everyone.
Thanks, Patrick.
Brett,
Bye-bye.
Brett, all the Leo clips.
100%. Yep. I got you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
As we conclude another enriching episode, we hope you found inspiration in the stories shared today. Let's take a moment to honor Yes I Can's role in bringing Breaking the Biz to life. Yes I Can's commitment to empowering young people with disabilities through education, advocacy, and mentorship shines brightly, paving paths of opportunity and dialogue. This podcast celebrates the organization's dedication to nurturing talent and facilitating impactful discussions. Breaking the Biz is more than a podcast. It's a part of Yes I Can's broader mission to amplify voices, dismantle barriers, and craft a world that's more inclusive and accessible for everyone. Each episode is a chapter in our shared narrative of progress, education, and empowerment, driven by the spirit of Yes I Can. Thank you for spending your time with us on Breaking the Biz. Continue to challenge the status quo and share stories that resonate. Until our paths cross again, Let's keep transforming aspirations into achievements and infuse every endeavor with optimism. Here's to advancing the landscape of the entertainment industry, one episode at a time. I'm your host, William Felber. See you next time.